I recently took a look at Oxygen 2.0 for WordPress. Now we took a look at the original version quite a while back, and the new version has brought a lot of enhancements. So if you haven't checked that video out for my overview of this product, I'd recommend checking that out. It's in the description below. But in this series of videos, I'm going to show you some of the key fundamental skills that you need to work with Oxygen when you're building a WordPress website. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the template structures for both the archive pages and for the single post pages, and how easy it is to start pulling that information in. So let's just jump over to WordPress and take a look at that. I'm Paul C and welcome to WPTuts, where I show you how to create beautiful WordPress websites. If this is your first time on the channel, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell icon to be notified of our weekly new content as soon as it's added to the channel. Now before I kick this video off, I want to say that it is a sponsored video. Those lovely people over at Oxygen have sponsored me to create a series of tutorials to get you up to speed with how you can use Oxygen. So let's take a look and jump into the admin section now of WordPress and see how we can start creating this template structure so we can create our own custom pages. So to get into the guts of Oxygen and start creating these templates, all we need to do is come down to the Oxygen menu on the left hand side. We're going to come into the templates option. Once we click in there, any templates we've created will be listed for us, and you can see we've got the option to add a new template or add a reusable part. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new template. So for this, we're going to create two different templates. We're going to create the archive template, which will list our posts, and secondly, we're going to create the single post page, which will show the actual content of the post that we select. So let's start off with our post archive. So we're just going to name this post archive. Now you can create multiple different archives and you can reference those, so you can have different templates for different sections of your site, which makes a really flexible structure. But we're going to keep it really simple in this one and just create a basic overarching archive. So once we've done that, we'll say post archive, we're going to name it, we'll click publish. That will then give us the option to go and set some parameters now for Oxygen itself before we actually open up Oxygen and start creating the layout. So you see we've got a pretty simple set of options available. We can inherit a design from another template, so if we had created something that we wanted to use as the basis for this new template, we could easily choose that from the list of options or the list of templates available. At the moment we don't have any, so we can't use that function. Next up, we've got singular, archive and other. These are the three different types of templates that we can create. So for this example, we're going to choose archive. Now again, we've got a series of options that allow us to go in and fine-tune what this archive will apply to. You can see we can do things, we can apply it to all the archives, so every single page will inherit this template that lists any posts or anything along those lines. You can then go through and you can filter by taxonomy, so we can easily click in there and all the different taxonomies that we have created as part of our copy of WordPress will be listed and available, so we could choose what we wanted from there. You've also got post types, which again you can come in and choose any of the post types that have been created as part of your copy of WordPress. Then we've got authors, and finally we have date. Let's keep this really simple and just choose all archives so this gets applied globally. Once we've done that, what we need to do is just come up and click update. Once we've done that, we can then open up Oxygen and start creating the template structure. So let's click and open that up. That will load the editor in for us, and we can then start creating the various different elements. Now we can use any of the predefined layouts, any of the predefined options, and there's quite a few little helpers in here to make the whole process considerably quicker and easier for us to create these archive pages. So what we need to do first of all is come up to the add option and then go through and add the basic first things that we want to put in there. So one of the nice things about this version of Oxygen is it gives us some helpers. In other words, predefined layouts that we can call upon and then we can fine-tune and tweak to do simple jobs like display posts. To access those, we simply come over to the helpers section on the left hand side and you can see we've got easy posts. We'll click and add that in there and you can see this immediately pulls in a range of posts that we've got in part of our WordPress. Now at the moment this is previewing just our posts, but if we wanted to preview something else we can do that by coming to the previewing option at the top, click, and you can see any of the things that we have available. So if we've got taxonomies in here, we've got authors and so on, so you can see for example PeaceMeg is my nickname on here, so I could call it up based upon the author, but for now posts is exactly what we want, so that's fine. You can also go through and change this basic layout. So this is quite nice to start off with, but we're not restricted to this sort of 3-column section. We can create other options. So you can see we've got load settings from preset, and if we click to expand that, we've got a range of predefined layouts that'll take the information on screen at the moment and then convert it over to that layout. So let's try that. Let's say, for example, list image on left. We'll say OK to this message, and you can see it immediately updates to show us this different layout. Come back in, choose something else like masonry, for example. We can click on there and we can take a look at that layout. So some predefined layouts look pretty good, but we can still fine tune and tweak those. So let's put that back to its original option. So we'll start off with the grid image standard, and we'll use that as the basis. Now, as with almost everything in Oxygen, this is just a starting point. We're not restricted to only having this layout with this style and color scheme and so on. We can change almost everything. Now, first of all, it's going to show all of our posts in this example, but if we wanted to, we could create a custom query. So we can expand the query option out, and you can see we have default, which is what we're using at the moment, custom, which we can come in and we can filter based upon post type, filtering, order, count, and so on, or we can create a manual query. So all very easy. Let's just say, for example, we want to specify the filtering. We could say we want it to have certain taxonomies in there, or all of a following taxonomy, or by the following authors. So we can use these and create our own custom filters. Once you've applied the filter and you want it to sort of show on screen, all you need to do is click on the apply query params, and that will then update on screen and show you the new layout based upon your custom query. So that's pretty cool. We've also got options then for things along the lines of styles. So we can expand that out. You can see based upon the current layout we have, we've got titles and meta and so on. We can customize all those different elements for font size, color, hover color, and so on. So you've got some basic options there. Now, not everything will apply to every different layout. So you're going to have certain layouts that might not have a style that applies to it. So you just basically want to gloss over those. Okay, so that's how you can deal with that side of things. We've also then got templates, so we can expand that out, and you can see we can adjust the template PHP or the template CSS. Expand that, and you can see there's all the CSS that's being used in this particular template. We could then go in and fine tune that. So if you are comfortable working with CSS and you want to just get stuck in and operate quickly, then you could do it this way. Jump back out of there, you can see we've got a template PHP, and again you can see we've now got the template structure in there. If you're comfortable with HTML and PHP, you could easily go in and fine tune and tweak this. So you've got a really nice working environment here where you can work either visually if you're more comfortable with that method, or if you're quite happy to get your hands dirty with PHP, HTML and CSS, you can get stuck in and do that as well, which I think really does separate this from a lot of the other page builders that are out there. It's not just visual. You have a lot of control over pretty much every aspect of your site development. Now, if you go through the time and effort of creating custom layouts and you want to apply this to something further on down the line, you can also save this as your own custom preset. So all you need to do is simply come into Save Current Settings as Preset, give it a name, hit Save, and you are good to go. That will then be reusable and accessible through the different settings and presets that you have available here. So again, a nice quick time saver when you do take a lot of time and effort to craft something specific to what you want. Okay, so what about those that are not comfortable dealing with the HTML, PHP and CSS? How can they go about visually updating and editing this layout? Well, if we jump over to the Advanced tab, you can see all the different options for tweaking and adjusting this layout are all available. So you want to do things like adjust borders and effects and so on. We can do all of that simply by clicking expanding, and you can see all the different options that are available to us. Background colors, image overlay effects, and so on and so forth. So a ton of options. Now it's beyond the scope of what I need to cover in this video, but I'll show you just how easy it is to make some changes. So let's just set this to be a certain width, and we'll make sure that the content is centered. So it's very, very easy to do. If we come into the size and spacing, we can come in and say set a maximum width of 1140 pixels wide. What we can do then is set our margins for the left and right hand side to auto, and you can see immediately we've set a centered aligned layout. Very, very easy to do. So we hit save on there, that saves it. Now if we want to add other reusable elements into this, we can do that. So we can easily come back in and say let's add something. For this example, we'll come into the library option and we'll open one of the design sets up, and we'll use Atomic, and what we'll do is we'll just load in one of the headers and the footers. So very easy. Let's go to sections and templates. We'll say we want a header, and we'll just choose this one for example, and we'll come back in and we'll say add something else, and we'll come in this time and we'll choose a footer, so we'll just choose this one. Now if we want to reorder those, which we'll need to put the header above our content, we can simply come into the structure option and we can just drag up and reposition this where we want, and you can see now we've got pretty much a fully fledged page, header, footer, and our section in the middle for our archive. Hit save on that, and we've now created a basic template structure for our post archive. So now that we've created our template for our archive, how do we actually use it? Well, there are two ways you can use templates in Oxygen. So I'm going to show you the first and easiest way. If we jump over, this is now my home page, and as you can see, it's got the content from my posts, but it's not laid out the way we just created it. So let's rectify that. Come back into our dashboard, and we finish with this. So I'm going to make sure I hit save, and then I'm going to close out of this and go back to my WordPress admin. So once I've gone back into the admin section, I'm going to update just to make sure that my post archive is saved. And what we're going to do next is we're going to create a page that's going to be the home page for our blog section. Now this is the same way you do it with WordPress as normal, so there's nothing special about doing it like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into the pages section, we're going to say add new. We're going to call this blog, and that's it. We're just going to hit publish. Now it pops up and says edit with Oxygen and render the page using a template. We don't need that for this specific method, so we'll leave that alone as it is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come to the settings section for WordPress, and we're going to come into reading. And once we're in reading, you can see we have the option to say the home page is going to display our latest posts, which is what it's currently doing, or we can set a static page and then choose what we want to be our post page. So let's do that. Click on there. Our post page, we're now going to choose that page we just created, which is a blank page. Set that to blog, hit save changes. That's now told it we want to use the blog page, and because we've set this archive, this template for the archive, it's going to be used on everything that's an archive. Then it's going to use our new template. So I hope that makes sense. Let's just jump back over. So there's our page as we just saw it, our home page displayed badly. Let's refresh that, and you'll see now it immediately loads in the design, the template we just created for our archive. So very, very easy to deal with. Now let's switch back to our dashboard, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the other way to deal with templates. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back into our pages section, and we're going to say all pages, and we're just going to create a new page. So we're going to say test template, and all we're going to do there is again save and publish that page. Now what we're going to do is say render this page using a template, and as you can see there's the template for our post archive. So we can click on that. That will now use the post archive template we've created. So we click on update on there. If we now come back in and we just open this up to preview it and click to open that up, there's our test template, and it's using the template we've created. So if you want to create your own custom page for a sort of blog section or a news section using the template you've created, you can use that method, whereas then the blog homepage can be used using the first method. Hope that makes sense. That's how easy it is to create our template for our archives. Now let's take a look at how we can create a template for our actual post page, our singular post page. So jump back into the dashboard now of WordPress. We're going to come back down to Oxygen and go back into our templates. We'll do the same kind of thing again. So we're going to say add a new template. We're going to name this one post singular, and we'll hit publish. That will then allow us to go through and specify what type of post template we're going to use. So this time we're going to use the singular option, and you can see we can now go through and say, well, what kind of template do you want this to apply to? We can go all post types, posts, pages, and so on. We want to be more specific with this one. We only want it to apply to posts. So we're going to say that on there. We're going to hit update, and then we're going to hit edit with Oxygen. So that means we can now start editing inside the Oxygen editor. Now I'm going to go through this quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is you can see we've got the preview at the top, so it's going to show us we can go through and choose any of those particular posts we want to use as the preview. I'll leave it as is, that's fine. We're going to click add, and we're going to come down like we did the last time, come into the library, the design sets, and we're just going to quickly add in a header and a footer. Once we've done that, we can then go through and create the different elements for our page. So we want the header, and we chose this one the last time. Let that load in, and then we're going to come back in, add, and we're going to say this time we want to put a footer in, and we'll choose this option again. So we've got the headers and footers in place. The next thing we're going to do is now put in the design for our content. So now we've got the header and footer in place, we're now ready to go through and start fleshing out the actual content for our layout for a singular post page. Now what we can do is we can simply jump into the WordPress option this time, and you can see we've got an option there for dynamic data. We click and open that up, we've got all the basic building block elements for a post page. So things like title, content, categories, dates, and so on. So let's keep this simple. Let's start off first of all by saying that we want to put in the title. So we can click and add the title in there. Now you can see it's positioned in the wrong place. It's gone way out of where we need it to be. Well, that doesn't matter, because all we need to do is expand that element out and drag and drop it wherever we want in our stacking order. So it's very, very easy to deal with. So you can see there's our post title. Looks pretty boring. Let's make it look a little bit more interesting. So what we're going to do is going to make sure that's selected. You can see expand that out. So we're going to select that and we're going to come into the Advanced tab. Now in there we can go through and do all the styling we want. So let's start off by just positioning the text where we want it. So let's come to the typography section. Let's set that to be centered. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the font, and we'll just put something like Mooley is a font that I quite like at the moment, so we'll go for that one, and we'll specify the font weight of 300. And what we'll do is we'll change the actual styling of our text a little bit as well. So we're going to come down, we'll say we want that to be uppercase. Let's make it 400 as opposed to 300, so it just stands out a little bit better. And let's try a font size of about 56. Yep, that looks pretty good. So it's already just looking a little bit better. Now let's just change the color of that to white, and you'll see why in a moment. So once we've done that, we're going to jump back out of all styles and go into our background this time. What we're going to do is we're going to use the data button again, and what we can do with this is we can go in and tell it exactly what data we want to pull in from our WordPress database. We want the featured image for this post, so we're going to say featured image. Size we're going to set to large, and we'll just click insert. Now you can see that immediately puts it in the background. Let's just change this over to a better image. Let's just try the Oxygen 2.0 article. So that's a better background image. You can see we're kind of losing the image on the sort of text over the image, but don't worry, we'll deal with that in a moment. So we can do is we can go through and say how we want this image to work. So we're going to say we want it to be cover. We don't want it to repeat at all, so we can say no repeat. And if we want, we could do fixed, or we could do scroll for a parallax effect, however we want to work with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say we want an image overlay. So we're going to choose black on there, so you can see it immediately makes it completely black, and then just use the opacity slider to get the effect that we want till we're happy with it. So that looks pretty good, gives us nice separation between the text and the background. Speaking of the text, let's jump back out of there, and if I want, I can easily come back into typography, and I can say I'm going to go a little bit thinner on my font. That actually looks a bit too thick when you see it with that background. Okay, that's looking quite nice. So let's just jump back out of all styles, and this time we're going to go into size and spacing. So what we can do on here is we can just put some padding at the top and bottom so we can see a little more of our image. So we'll put 200 pixels top, 200 bottom. And you can see that now gives us a much more interesting heading section. Like I say, if we want this to be fixed so we can have that kind of nice looking layout, we can do that. Just jump into the background and say we want this to be fixed. And now when we scroll up and down, that will show over the top and the background image will stay fixed. So there's the first part of it done. Now let's go in and add the actual content and the comment sections and all those kind of good things. So to do that, all we're going to do is, again, come to add. You can see we've still got the dynamic data open. So the next thing we're going to do is just simply drop in the actual content itself. So we can do that by just clicking on content. And you can see that immediately drops it into the right place. If we didn't, we could always use the stacking order on the side. So that's pretty good. We'll leave everything set in there as it is. We're going to come into the advanced section, go into our layout. So going to go into our size and spacing. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to set the margin left and right to be auto. And like we did with the first one, we're going to set this to 1140 pixels. We'll close this down on the side, and you can see that now. Make sure that we've got everything centered up nicely. The other thing we're going to do is just put a bit of padding above and below that. So at the moment it's a bit tight to the top and bottom. So let's set 50 for the top, and we'll put 50 at the bottom as well. So that's looking pretty good already. We've got this nice parallax effect. Our heading is over the top with a nice overlay. We've got our text underneath it. If we want to style that, we can do that. We can also easily add additional elements in. So we could use any of these WordPress elements. We'll leave it there for now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back out of this, come back in again, like I say, stay in our WordPress option. We're going to say we want to drop the comment form underneath and the comment list. So let's say comment list. You can see that will drop it underneath there. Now, obviously, there's nothing to show at the moment. What we can do is we can use any of these presets as well. So we can say gray highlight, for example. And like we did, we can come back in, jump over to the advanced section and come into our size and spacing and do the same again in this. We'll set this to be auto on the left and right. We'll set the max width to be 1140, and we'll know we've got everything then laid out nice and neat and tidy. Let's put the 1140 in there. Okay. Then finally, we're going to come back out of this, and we're just going to go in and say we want to put the comment form underneath. So we'll click, add that in there, and just do the same thing again. We just come back into our advanced size and spacing, set left and right to be auto, and our width to be 1140. Now we know that everything is going to line up nice and neat and tidy if the 1140 would actually stay in there for me. So let's just go and check in our structure, make sure everything is as we want it to be. So you can see comment list and comment form. So everything is laid out nice and neat. So we'll hit save on there. So now that we put all the elements together into our single post page, our template, what do we need to do to get this to work inside our website? Well, actually absolutely nothing, because we set it to be the default for the single post page. It's going to show that on every single post. So all we need to do is make sure we've saved this, so it's committed all the changes, jump back over to our test site, and you can see there's our typical page that we had created in the first part of this video. Now all we need to do is click on an article, and I'll use the third one so you can see exactly what we're talking about. Click on there, that'll take you over, and there's our layout. So you can see there's our sort of parallax fixed background for the header, our content, our leave a reply, and if we had any comments, they'd be listed above. And as you can see, our header and footer sections are also already in place there for us as well. And that really is it. That's how easy it is to go through and start creating your own custom templates for the archives, for the single post pages, and you can utilize these throughout your entire site. Hopefully what this video has shown you is that it's very easy and also very intuitive to work with, and the fact you can pull in lots of dynamic data just makes the whole process even easier. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we add new content to the channel. As always, all the applicable links are in the description below. Check out Oxygen, see what you think of it, and if you think it's something worth purchasing, by all means go and grab yourself a copy of it. As always, this is a conversation, so please tell me what you think of Oxygen, what you think of this video, and what you'd like to see covered in future videos. And until next time, my name has been Paul C, this has been WPTuts, and take care.